Hi, my name is Hagen. I'm a solutions architect in the SageMaker Edge team. SageMaker Edge supports different ways to deploy models to edge devices in production, including Ringrose v2 or using your own deployment mechanism. But we also want to make it easy for you to get started with SageMaker Edge and run your models on an edge device. There are a couple of steps required before you can start using our lightweight runtime, the SageMaker Edge agent. That includes creating certificates, setting up IoT credentials for authenticating the edge device with AWS, as well as downloading binaries and certificates to the device itself. So we created the SageMaker Edge quick device setup tool that simplifies the initialization of an edge device, as well as required resources in the cloud. The quick device setup runs on the edge device and goes through the following steps for you. It creates an S3 bucket to store data captures from edge devices. Then it creates a device fleet policy and device fleet role so that your device can interact with AWS services. It creates and configures an IoT thing so that your device can use IoT services to authenticate with AWS. And then it creates a SageMaker Edge fleet and device. After creating all the cloud resources, it downloads the created certificates as well as the Edge agent binaries onto the device. Lastly, it creates a configuration file for the Edge agent on your device. If you specify resources that already exist, for example the S3 bucket or device fleet, then the quick device setup tool will reuse those. The installed Edge agent package includes basic sample code to communicate with the Edge agent and run inference on your device. The package includes documentation as well. Now let's have a look at how this fits into the machine learning lifecycle with edge devices. The initial model can be created in SageMaker. That model then gets optimized and packaged for deployment on a fleet of edge devices. When the model is running on a device, the Edge agent runtime lets you capture data from those models and send that data back into the cloud. The uploaded data can be used to retrain the model for better performance. That updated model can then go through the same cycle again. We are providing the quick device setup tool in source form on GitHub. It has been implemented in Go and you can build the tool for your target device. You can also download pre-built binaries for each release. The repository includes a README file with detailed instructions on building and running the tool. Please note that the quick device setup tool is meant to be used in development and testing only. One of the reasons for this is that it requires a fairly permissive IAM policy so that it can create all needed cloud resources for an edge device. So let's have a quick look at the README file and specifically the IAM policy. You can see that the device will need access to IAM to create the policy and role. It requires access to IoT to create the IoT thing that will be used by the device to authenticate against AWS. It needs access to S3 to create the bucket for captures. Then it also needs access to SageMaker to create the device and device fleet. It also needs read access to the SageMaker Edge release store to download the Edge agent binaries. So let's run the quick device setup tool on an actual device now. I already copied the binary for the tool onto my Raspberry Pi. I also loaded some credentials so that the tool can run. Let's have a quick look at the command line. You will see you have to specify the account ID for the account that you want the device to be registered against, a local directory to install the Edge agent to, then an S3 bucket and folder prefix for data captures, the name for the role that the device fleet should be using, the name for the device fleet, and the name for the actual device. So let's run the tool. It will run through all the steps that are required to set up your device. It's going to take a couple of seconds. At the very end, you will see that it shows you the configuration for the Edge agent. So you're ready to run the agent now. Now that the device setup is complete, we can start the Edge agent. Let's have a quick look at the command line. We have to specify a socket that an application will use to communicate with the Edge agent, as well as point the Edge agent to the configuration file that the quick device setup created for us. So let's start it. We'll see some printouts, and now it's listening on its socket, and we can run one of the sample applications. The Edge agent package comes with two examples, one written in C++ and the other one in Python. Let's have a look at the Python example. It comes with a shell script that runs the whole example, so let's have a quick look at that. It first installs some Python requirements, which are the gRPC tools. The API definition for the Edge agent is provided in language-independent proto file that you need to compile for the language that you want to build the application with. So in this case, it's compiling it for Python. And then it runs the actual example code, which requires a couple of parameters. The first one is the URL to the model, then the name of the model under which you want to register it on the device, the name of the image input tensor, and the path to an image. As you can see, it requires a computer vision model on the device to run the example. I downloaded MobileNet v2, so let's run the shell script against that model. So first the model URL, which I have in my model path. Then the model name that I want to use is MobileNet v2. Third parameter is the input tensor name, which is input 1 for this model, and then a path to an actual image, which is this. Let's run the example. As I said, first installs the required packages, then it compiles the model, the API, and then it runs the inference against the model that I provided. You can see it loads the model, then it lists the model, which shows some parameters of the model. It runs prediction on the image, and then it unloads the model again. You probably noticed that the example Python script didn't output any meaningful information about the prediction that it ran against the model. There's a good reason for that. The example script is mainly there to show you how to communicate with the Edge agent, but not necessarily to create meaningful output from an arbitrary computer vision model. Let's have a look at the predict image method. It basically directly loads the image data into the input tensor. As you know, each computer vision model requires a specific kind of pre-processing on the image data so that the model can make sense of the data, as well as some post-processing on the output to create human readable or understandable information. You can easily modify the predict image function to add that for the model that you want to run against to create meaningful predictions for your testing. So we just ran our example. Now let's have a look at the SageMaker console and have a look at our device here. So we go into Edge Manager, Edge Devices, and there it is, our PyDemo device 001. We can see it got registered today. It got shortly thereafter the first heartbeat. We're running MobileNet v2 version 1.0, and we also ran an inference on device. This concludes the demo. Here are some additional resources, including a link to our documentation of supported platforms and devices, a link to the GitHub repository for the quick device setup tool, as well as links to notebooks and workshops that can help you get started with SageMaker Edge. Thank you, and please have a look at our other demo videos as well.